Hey everyone, Meinke from MLive&apos. Do not adjust your television sets. This is Justin Rogers wearing polka dots on day 2 of Lions training camp.
It's true. You rubbed off me in a very negative way.
Yeah, it did not come from my closet, just to verify. Big day for the Lions today, Justin, as they hit the practice fields again for day 2 of training camp. Big day for us as well, as we talked to Martin Mayhew. One of the big talking points from him was Eric Ebron, and it was pretty interesting what he had to say about Ebron and how far he's come, not just on the field but away from it in the locker room. The word he used was more realistic. What was your takeaway from what Mayhew had to say about Ebron, and how has he looked on the field?
Some of you are probably sick of us talking about Eric Ebron, but the man is a story. You know, as a high draft pick who underperformed last year. Big things are expected of him, and yeah, you know, Mayhew's comments echoed kind of what we have been saying for a while. When people have asked us, what are we seeing different with Eric Ebron this year? Why are we going to believe that he's going to be a better player in year 2? And it's not the physical gifts. We know exactly what he's bringing to the table physically in terms of his athleticism, his speed. But what it is his approach to the game. This is a guy that's more serious this year. He's more serious with the way he deals with us. He's more serious the way he deals with his teammates. He's more serious in the way he approached the offseason in terms of going and working out with Stafford and the receivers during the break. This is a guy that's coming to grips with the fact that he can't just get by on his raw talent, and he has to put in the work and be a professional to reap those rewards, and we're seeing that since the beginning of OTAs to where we are now.
The first day Eric Ebron stepped on a practice field with the Lions, he was super athletic at tight end. The first day of OTAs and mini camp and training camp in the season, it was the same. When he runs around, you can see exactly what the Lions see in that guy, why they think he can be a playmaker in their offense. And yet he was what we saw last year, which was a minimally productive player who didn't really know what the hell he was doing in the offense. So why is that? It is his mental approach to the game, and I think he wildly underestimated what the transition would entail. Ebron told us at one point that he was athletic enough in high school to start. He was athletic enough right away in college to start there at North Carolina, and he thought the transition was going to be exactly the same. And anyone who's been around the NFL or watches the NFL knows that's simply not enough in a game where everyone is super athletic. And so that was a lesson he had to learn, and he learned it the hard way. He came in underestimating what this would be, and using unrealistic terms like not hitting a rookie wall. And that was something Mayhew specifically cited this week, talking about Ebron, was that was unrealistic, but that now he understands more about what it takes to be a professional, the work that goes into it, the preparation needed, and I think we are seeing a different player in Eric Ebron because he's really producing on the field and doing it on consecutive days. It's not up and down as much as what it was before. It's day in and day out. He's looking more and more consistent.
Another good practice today. Didn't see him put any balls on the ground. He did catch 2 touchdowns in red zone work, and yeah, he's starting to stack the practices on top of each other, and with that, he's not talking to us, and I think some people think, oh, we're upset by that, and no, that's not the reality. We're going to write about this guy anyway. We're going to write about when he's having success as he is now. We're going to write about when he struggles as he has in the past. He doesn't need to talk to us, and I think that's last year when he didn't talk to us, it was more of almost like an animosity to anger. This year, it's just because. What were the words he said to you today?
What's the point? I basically ran after him toward the locker room, and he said, "What's the point? What's the point?" And outran me into the locker room, which I'm sure surprises everybody.
Yeah, and we get that. What can he say at this point with all that's been written and the stuff he said in OTAs and minicamp? I mean, it's not like he hasn't talked to us all off season. He said his bit. He's now showing it on the field, and. I can respect that. I'd like to talk to him, but I don't need to. I know what I'm seeing with my eyes.
Yeah. Is he ever going to do what we saw Odell Beckham do last year? Probably not. But can he be a third pass-catching option for the Lions behind Calvin and Tate? Absolutely. And we're seeing it day in and day out. This guy is we were talking the other day after he had that great catch over Tulloch, over the middle, and you said, well, Tulloch's given up a ton of size, and it's like, that's the point. That's what Eric Ebron does for you. He's a physical matchup nightmare for defenses, and if he knows what he's doing, that's something you can exploit. I do think we'll see more of that this year from Eric Ebron, even if it's not what Beckham did or whoever. I still think he can be a success for the Lions.
Yeah, we can't judge him on the guys drafted before and after. We can judge Mayhew on that, but we can't judge Eric Ebron on that. He's his own individual person, and last year was last year. It wasn't good enough. We knew there was going to be some struggles. He probably underperformed even the lower end of the expectations. Now it's time to step up, and it seems like he's stepping up to the plate.
Mayhew hit on a variety of topics today. We don't have time to talk about all the stuff, Justin, but one big one was DeAndre Levy. We've written about it a bit too, but obviously those negotiations, those contract negotiations have occurred throughout the offseason. To this point, they haven't culminated in a deal. Lions went through a similar situation last year with their best defensive player, Ndamukong Suh, tabled the negotiations to avoid a distraction. They're not doing that this year, which I think is kind of interesting. I think they trust that. Well, first of all, Levy doesn't have the same kind of profile that Suh does, but he's also more stable, a better locker room fit. He ruffles fewer feathers in the organization. I think this is a guy universally that the Lions want back next year, and they're going to keep the negotiations open, at least at this point, throughout training camp and maybe into the season if progress is being made. Do you expect a deal to be done by December 31st?
Yeah, you hit on it a little bit. It's just a different situation. It's a player that I think less divisive within the organization. Yeah. That has nothing to do with the fan base. I mean, people within the organization universally like DeAndre Levy. He plays a position that's far more reasonable to retain. We just saw Wagner in Seattle get a deal, 4 years, $43 million. He's 3 years younger, probably plays a little bit more of a expensive position as a middle linebacker. So I really think Levy's going to fall into that $10 million a year range, 3 to 4 years. And yeah, I absolutely do think the deal is going to get done. I think there's probably about a 90% shot. I'm that confident that Levy's in a Lions uniform next year.
I talked to DeAndre Levy after practice today. He said he's fully prepared to play the season without a new deal in place if it comes to that. But I think his preference would be to get something done for his financial security and long-term security. I think the Lions want that as well. He's one of the best homegrown players they've had under Mayhew. Him and Ndamukong Suh are two of the better ones, and Suh's obviously gone. I think there's going to be a real emphasis to avoid losing two of their best defensive players in back-to-back years.
Yeah, and on that front, we also asked Mayhew about Haloti Ngata. It's another guy they're extending with. I'm not as confident as he'll be back next year. Mayhew continues to say they want to bring him back. They're talking to his representation about extension, but it's a 31-year-old defensive tackle that hasn't shown anything in this scheme. Listen, the guy's a 5-time All-Pro. You respect those accomplishments, but you don't pay for what a guy did in the past. You pay for what he offers going forward, and even though Mayhew said he's seen enough already to know he wants to keep Ngata, if I'm paying that money, even if it's a 3-year deal, I want to see him perform on Sundays in this defensive scheme. I want to see what Karan Reed and Gabe Wright bring to the table to know how much I have a need at that position. And I can't say with any certainty that Ngata's here beyond 2015.
He's 31 years old. He's coming off one of the worst seasons of his career. There are PED concerns with what happened last year, and now he's dealing with the hammy. I think there's a lot of question marks with him, and when it comes to a long-term deal. And I think there's just good player. The Lions will have him back if the price is right. I'm just not convinced the price will be right. Not as a guy who's been paid handsomely throughout his career. He is a 5-time All-Pro. I think he's going to be looking for more money and will eventually get more money than what the Lions should or are going to be willing to put in for a guy of his age with that many miles on the tires.
Obviously, the hamstring now, it's pretty minor. He's got a history of being durable. Defensive line, offensive line, those guys can play into their later years. I'm not convinced that Ngata's going to be the same dynamic, explosive defender he was for the 5 straight All-Pro seasons in Baltimore up to 2013 in Detroit. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, could be wrong. I haven't seen enough of him in this scheme, but I know from his own words that he's kind of struggled with the adjustment. It's just a different set of responsibilities, and in Detroit, you have to be able to get off the ball quickly, be in the backfield, be disruptive. And until I see it on Sundays, then I think you can hold off a little bit on the contract extension talks.
That's what we got from day 2 of training camp. We'll be back at it tomorrow on Wednesday night at Novi High School. Lions take the training camp on the road for their first padded practice of of training camp, and we'll get I think a better feel for some of the linemen and where they're at. Karan Reed, I know, is a guy we're anxious to see mix it up a little bit. Amir Abdullah and how he does with some live hitting. We'll be there throughout the night and into the following day. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep it right here.